Hi, I'm Alan Huot from Wildlife Control Supplies, and I'd like to talk to you a little bit today about the Belisle Footsnare. We send out a number of these, and invariably the customers are confused when they first receive them. They are a little bit of a unique device, so what I wanted to do is put together a demonstration for you to show you how they're set properly. This is the device that we're talking about. This is the Belisle Footsnare. This happens to be the 6-inch model for fox and coyote. It comes in two other sizes, an 8-inch for wolf and 12-inch for bear. As you can see, it has some smooth wire jaws. One is a double barred jaw, a couple of springs here. It has a conventional pan setup that's adjustable, and also it has a safety hook, okay, that we're going to use in just a minute. This is the dog that will set the trap as well. Now, one of the things you'll notice, and I'll pick this up so you can see it, is there are two hooks on the base plate of the Belisle. That's where your spring is going to sit. One here and one there. Another part of the Belisle which we think people find confusing is underneath the pan. If you lift the pan up and take it out, on the printed directions it's called the rod connector, and it has two notches in it, and basically it's used for holding the jaws open so that you can easily set the Belisle. You can get some leverage on the jaws and pry them down, and it allows you to set the Belisle. You can see here I've got the rod connector in place, and there's a gap in the smooth wire jaws of the Belisle Footsnare. As I mentioned earlier, there's three sizes of these devices. This happens to be the 6-inch for coyote and fox. There's an 8-inch for wolf and mountain lion, and there's a 12-inch for bear. So those are the parts of the Belisle. Let's go ahead and set it. I'll pick the Footsnare up, hold it in my hand, turn it over. Again, these are the springs, one on each side. And what you want to do is compress the spring and place it in that notch. Okay, the open end of the spring fits into the notch, one on either side of the Belisle Footsnare. So I'll turn it around for you. Still holding that jaw. It's got a gap in it. What you want to do is turn that, and I'll squeeze it, set it in the notch right here. Now, one of the things you should notice, and is very important, is that the springs are in the same direction as the dog. Okay? The springs have to be placed into those notches in the base of the Belisle Footsnare in the same direction as the dog of the trap. Okay, you can turn it back over, put it down so you can take a look at it. Here's your pan, safety hook, and the dog. Now the next thing you're going to do to set this device is, and I'll place it here so I can get some leverage on it, is I'm going to open the jaws, and then I'll show you how we place the snare cable into the Belisle Footsnare itself. What you want to do is make sure that your safety hook is out of the way. Okay, your springs are pointed in the same direction as the dog of the trap, and you're going to pry those jaws open. Okay, push down. You can put your safety hook in place at the same time if you'd like. Okay, so now this is the free jaw, if you will. It's the double jaw that I showed you earlier. Here's your connecting rod that's no longer being used. And the powered jaw is the single smooth wire jaw of the Belisle. At this point, what you can do is lift the pan up and replace the rod connector under the pan where it came from originally, and put your pan back down. now that you have the jaws open, held in place by the safety hook, is to put the snare cable that will capture the animal's leg onto the snare. This is another area that we find that people find confusing, so I did want to go through it with you. This is the snare that is for fox and coyote. It's a 3/32 aircraft cable. It does have a lock on it right here, and it also has an anchor point that I'll show you in a moment. And what you do to place the cable on the device itself is I start on the far side of the Belisle Footsnare, and I'll place the cable between the double jaw. Maybe you can see that a little bit better. I'm placing it between the double jaw. It passes over the pivot point of the jaws here and here. It makes a complete loop on one end. And what you want to do is also make sure that the cable will pass under the dog once it's engaged in the trigger of the pan. And I'll show you that in a moment. So what you want to do with this oblong link, let me turn it around so you can take a look at it a little bit better maybe. There's an oblong link on one of the springs. That's your anchor point for the cable. And as you'll notice, it's got this flat bar on one end of the cable. It's used as a toggle. What you want to do is pass that through this oblong link, and this is your anchor point. This is where you're going to place maybe another swivel off to a double stake swivel, anchored in the ground, maybe with a disposable stake, maybe cross rebars, but this is your anchor point for the cable itself. Now let me trace the path of the cable just so that you're clear. And again, it is anchored in the oblong loop on one end of the spring. It passes under where the dog will go over the single jaw, the powered jaw. It passes over the pivot point of the jaws here. And then between the double jaw, that free jaw, and again over the pivot point of the jaws on the opposing side, and then makes a complete loop right here. Okay? So now your cable is in place. The last thing to do before taking it out into the field, taking it off the tailgate of your truck, off the ground, wherever you may have set the Belisle Footsnare, is to engage the dog of the device, press down on it, and lift your pan up so that it engages the notch on the pan right here. Just like a conventional foothold trap, when an animal steps on the pan, these jaws are going to close. Because they are a smooth wire jaw, they're going to slip off the animal's foot, and in the process, this cable is going to close around the leg of the animal. So again, you want to have it, make sure that this cable is between this double jaw, over the pivot points of the jaw, and under the dog. And that's all there is to setting the Belisle Footsnare. There you have it right there. Again, I'm Alan Hewitt from Wildlife Control Supplies. I hope you found this instruction valuable. We look forward to making many more of them. Please come back and visit us often. Thank you.